I need to assess the audience, so I'm going to ask for a show of hands. Monday, September 25th, next Monday, is the 43rd anniversary of an Elton John concert at Millette. How many attended that concert? Okay. Second question. How many attended the Elton John's first Miami concert, May 7th, 1972? That 72 concert was pretty radical for Miami. It wasn't Janis Joplin, it wasn't the Grateful Dead, but then again, it wasn't Peter, Paul, and Mary either. This could be a tough audience here. Move-in day, September 6, 1968, 55 years ago, began a lifelong commitment to this university, its amazing faculty, beautiful campus, and great athletic traditions. Of course, we were also down in, I just drew a blank, and I'm going to do this over and over again tonight. No, the new dorm that was down on the other end of campus. What was the dorm I was in at the other end of campus? Anyway, Morris. That's right. We moved into Morris, and there was a bed. There was no dresser. There were no bolsters in the back. There were no carpets, and third floor south wasn't connected up as a bathroom yet. But they hustled on it over the next week or two, and things worked out pretty well. Coming here, the coaching team of Raymond Ray, Miami class of 38, and Bill Lewis, class of 54, were both military persons. Ray had been in the Navy as an instructor up at Great Lakes Naval Training Center in swimming, and Bill had been an Air Force air traffic controller, Iwakuni Airfield in Japan. The phrase officer and a gentleman had strong coded meanings in the military. Bill, who was an amazing mentor to me and to others on the team, recently passed away in Clearwater and was the heart and soul of our swimming and diving team back in the 70s. Demanding, understanding, but eternally optimistic. This was an embossed sign in head coach Raymond Ray's office. Coats, ties, and gentlemen. Sounds similar to a military thing that you just heard. This was also in the head coach's office up through my years in 2016. It became a credo for us. Some of you might, of a certain age, vintage I'll say, might recall a Crosby, Stills and Nash song, "Teach Your Children." And it had the line, "If you who are on the road must have a code that you can live by." And then it followed by an impact of the teaching of the code. Coats, ties, and gentlemen was the code of our swimming and diving team. Coats and ties are self-evident. They represent a different aspect of life than Speedos, shorts, and flip-flops. And there are vastly different expectations of a person when you see them in Speedo, shorts, and flip-flops versus being what we're going to describe. Here, the expectations is understood from the swimmers and divers, many thanks to the anonymous authors that presented some of these at my retirement a few years back. Ray used to just call it CTG, Coats, Ties, and Gentlemen. It's pretty simple. Dress is a sport coat, button-down shirt, tie for travel, and designated occasions. CTG is also representing our team, our families, and ourselves as gentlemen, winning and losing with grace. You're going to hear this, and you've heard it before or something similar. Coach Ray frequently stated, when you win, you don't have to say anything. When you lose, there's nothing to talk about. It became a common statement on Miami teams, and later in life, did I tell you about Ray? I don't know. Okay, later in life, I read that Paul Brown had been at Great Lakes Naval Training Center during the war years as well, coaching the Blue Jackets football team. He had a phrase, when you win, say nothing. When you lose, say less. Talk about a pithy statement. Must have been a tough environment up there at Great Lakes during the war. Coach Tyson, gentlemen, is acting, not talking. Acting, not talking. And another statement, this one from Red Blake, class of 1930, you don't develop good teeth eating mush. Mm-hmm. Coach Tyson, gentlemen, is also facing significant challenges from other teams. If you want to improve, compete with those that are better than yourself. Overcome obstacles in the pursuit of excellence. Yeah, you're not eating mush. It's developing skills by swimming your events off events, not your specialties, when you have a weaker team that are not allowed to do it. It's not an opportunity to pile up the score. It's an opportunity to test yourself. Important. And then finally, will you be ready when your big chance comes? Will you be ready when your big chance comes? That takes a team, that takes focus, and it takes being confident knowing that your teammates are ready and they're relying on you. One of the interesting things, the last 3 events in a dual meet are 3-meter diving, now 200 breaststroke, 3-meter diving, and there's a 400 free relay, right? These are Miami's best events year in and year out, and critical for every championship team. Ray intentionally tried to make meets as tight as possible coming down to those last 3 events. I could kind of go back and look at it, you'd be within 10 points or 8 points or 12 points or something like that. And those guys ended up being very, very tough. I'm going to shift. Our time here is brief, and our achievements fade away very, very quickly. There are SODs here, don't ask, but if you SOD folks would please stand. Ted Goebel, Roger Jones, Wally Morton, Bob Shaw. These guys were seniors when I was a rookie here, right? They heard numerous stories from Ray, Miami's first swimming coach of Bill Mulligan, on how he trained, what he ate, what motivated him, how he raced, and how they should race and follow these rules as well. He was a multiple conference champion in the breaststroke events, folks. Became the NCAA champion, the Pan American Games champion, the Olympic champion in 1960, and was an initial inductee into the International Hall of Fame. And this is not a critique, it's just time. Yet when a recent Miami student reporter was tasked with citing university's all-time greatest athletes, Bill's name was not on the list. An important reminder to us, each of us, to keep a proper perspective of our life events. They're not going to look back and jump up and down. So what do we remember? What do the swimmers remember? Well, obviously, great competitions, winning, disappointments. Our training groups are the primary group that everybody remembers. You can't hear anything when you're swimming. You can't talk to anybody when you're swimming. And if I've done my job right, you don't have any rest between your events when you're swimming. So there's no time to chatter. There's no time to chatter, right? We had training groups, sprint freestylers, distance freestylers, breaststrokers, butterflyers, divers. Not that they were going to swim. And I meant to say backstrokers instead of divers there. You get the picture. Each of these groups was usually led by an upperclassman who set the tone for the lane. Because of that only few seconds between repeats, there's little conversation. But if you have a strong leader there that you have him empowered, even if he's a junior or a senior, they set the pace for everyone else in their lane. They make it competitive. 3-meter diving was the last individual event in the meet, and there was great pressure on those guys. We can cite the divers and free relay folks for many dual meet wins in each of our conference championships. And being sprinters and divers, they'll remind you of the obligation that you owe them, unlike some of the more modest distance and individual freestylers, individual medley swimmers, somewhat. So what do we remember? Travel. In the late 60s, folks, swimmers and divers traveled in station wagons. The 8-passenger Chevy and Fords, upperclassmen got the 3-man bench seats. Rookies were in the last seat, 2 facing backwards, all right? You bet, all right? Travel caravan was strictly enforced. Head coach, assistant coach, and then manager driving the caboose. Yeah, there was car sickness. Yes, the odors were stifling, particularly for those in the back. Mr. Ray, as a fine young coach, had learned how to drive to Ohio U and Western and Kent State and BG in the pre-interstate era. And we still took those rural roads, even when parallel to I-something was in plain view. BG, Kent State, yeah. We got a great bump in travel quality with the fleet of 15-passenger vans in the 70s. It took the risks down because you no longer had 3 vehicles, you only needed 2. You know, that was pretty strong. Everyone could look forward and see what was coming. But I really don't remember, because I got to drive them, any specific training aside from a quick tour of the Millette lot. Certainly no commercial driver's license required. In later years, finally, my last 8, we were afforded charter buses, which the guys named luxury Land Cruisers. Yeah, lots of space. Highlight of the training year was an annual trip down to Florida to the Hall of Fame pool in Fort Lauderdale first, and later to the Plantation Park pool. Swimming to exhaustion, dodging stingrays and jellyfish and other critters in the ocean mile were justified by huge meals at the Rustic Inn and a run or 2 to Jackson's Ice Cream Parlor. And if they had been properly behaved young men, a stop on the way home at Ron John's Surf Shop and other diversions that do not deserve mention. But there were some modest complaints as we drove by the exit to Ron John's Surf Shop, as the coach made a comment about the need to get home to start drinking. It's really been an amazing experience for these young people. It's been an amazing experience to look and see how Coach Ties and Gentlemen somehow permeated their brains, right? Extremely loyal, extremely proud of what they did, and not ones to point fingers and not ones to pile up the points. That hurt us sometimes. It hurt us sometimes in terms of win-loss record, because you come in there and you had an opportunity to blow some people out of the water. And certain crazy coaches thought this is a great place for the 50 freestyler to learn how to do a 500 free. Or maybe a 200 fly, you know? So it leveled that playing field a little bit. What I see when I come back is the extreme loyalty that these guys had for each other. And they still do. And they still do to Miami. I think we had, with the count, 60 swimmers and divers. Would you stand up, please? I appreciate it, guys. I'd like to give a thanks to my sister, Nina Jackson, trying to get out the back door, and her husband, Greg, for driving over from Annapolis yesterday. I would like to thank Mr. Schreider for the opportunity to be able to be at this wonderful institution and to work with such wonderful people. I would like to thank Raymond Ray and Bill Lewis, two of the most straight-laced, ethical persons I ever met. I'd like to thank Gray Wilson, whoever Gray is. He let me live in his basement when I came back as a grad student. And he was a pretty good housemate. And he has this amazing group of young women that still follow him for 40 years later. You make the mistake of hitting the wrong button and getting on their, whatever they're called, their big chat thing. Because once it gets on there, Jen Shape saw me over here the other day when I arrived. She sent something out and all of a sudden there's all these people. To me, did I say Bill already?
Did you say what?
Bill Lewis already?
Yes.
Yes. Over here, Dave Jennings. Where's Dave? Thank you. Dave Jennings, Hall of Famer, winningest swimming coach around. More importantly, a confidant and a role model for me. Both over there in Billings, the two offices were close by. There was no sound cushioning. You could hear each other burp. And I know that I wasn't the most easygoing person to get along with, Dave. And I know I raised my eyebrows a lot when you had the little big women's teams meetings out in the lobby there. That were probably one of the central things that Dave did. But he was the winningest swimming coach we've had here. I specifically did not want to choose individuals because I would have to stand up here and read the names of 60 guys and not even be able to remember who I was talking about. But they were outstanding, and they still are outstanding. And I thank you all for very much and making Miami swimming and diving what it has been. Okay. SODs, underclassmen, everybody up. Let's give everybody a round of the fight song. You know it. I don't know who's leading off. Louder. I didn't know we were doing that a cappella. Oh, that's yours. My mistake.
You're fine.
Thank you all very much.